Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. And Professor Dr. Atta-ur-Rahman has joined us now. He's our keynote speaker for the day. So thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. I would now officially give the floor to you for your keynote. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning and to address you about what we have been doing and how knowledge is transforming economies and what we need to do in Pakistan in order to move forward. So in my presentation that I'll be giving you, I will just initially I will describe a little bit about what has been happening in countries which are advancing rapidly, what we have tried to do in Pakistan over the last 15 years or so. First, when I was the Minister for Science and Technology, and then later the Chairman of the Higher Education Commission. And what are we doing now that I am chairing the Prime Minister's Task Force on Science and Technology, and also am involved with the Prime Minister in the Knowledge Economy Task Force. So we live in a world which is knowledge driven. Natural resources have diminishing importance. And countries that have realized that their real wealth lies in their children and are investing massively in education, in science, in technology, in innovation and entrepreneurship. Those are the countries marching forward, leaving others behind. So, and the fourth industrial revolution has brought many challenges and opportunities. New technologies have come in, and these emerging technologies are changing the landscape of our civilization. And there are many, many examples of how, for instance, the blind can see with their tongue today using a device which has been developed in Wisconsin by a company called YCAP. You can make people disappear. Harry Potter's disappearing cloak is a reality through new materials that have been developed called meta materials, which have the ability to bend light. An evolution which used to take hundreds of thousands or millions of years through which new plants were developed. This can now be done in a matter of weeks through a gene editing technique called CRISPR-Cas, through which you can, using molecular scissors, cut the genes of one plant and put it into another plant and transfer properties in that manner. And I could go on for hours and hours on this wondrous world of science, which is where truth is indeed stranger than fiction. But let me show you some slides, share some slides with you so that I go to my talk, the PowerPoint presentation. So are these visible? Yes, I hope they are. As I said, socio-economic development is now largely dependent on the ability to acquire knowledge and then use new knowledge for innovation and entrepreneurship. And whether it's large countries like China or small countries like Singapore, the story is the same. It's bright young people trained in the best institutions, acquiring the latest knowledge and technologies, and then applying them.
Yes, sir, they're visible. They're visible. Please carry on.
Yeah, applying them for transformation. So take a small country like Singapore. Population about 1/4 of Karachi, about 5.5 million. Virtually no natural resources. One man, under the leadership of visionary Lee Kuan Yew, they invested massively in quality education. National University of Singapore is ranked amongst the top 20 of the world today. And would you believe it? Exports last year, $330 billion US. When you compare it to Pakistan's $25 billion, with a size of Pakistan and the population, which is some 40 times larger, you see what's going on. So it's really the amazing world of education and science. Pakistan is 220 million population, and Singapore is 5.5, and yet Singapore's exports are $330 billion as opposed to Pakistan's $25 billion. Move to the other extreme. Well, let's one more slide on Singapore. This is the GDP per capita between 1960, the 50-year period 1960 to 2010. Bottom tells you the years. Blue line Singapore, red line UK by comparison, green line the world average. So Singapore, the blue line, overtook the United Kingdom in terms of GDP per capita in mid 1990s, early 1990s, and today has a much higher per capita income than many of the advanced countries. The story of China in one slide. Extreme left is the years. The second is the key column, how many Chinese students were going abroad in that particular year for PhDs, for postdoctoral training. And from starting from 1978, the number has grown. And as you go downward, last year, China sent some 600,000 students abroad. About 500,000 students returned last year after training from abroad in top institutions. And these returning students are being accommodated and clustered in centers of excellence. And today, China has a much higher number of research publications, much higher number of patents, and much greater investment in science and technology than the United States. So China is number one in terms of innovation today in the world with the investments that it is making in new technologies. And this graph shows you the share of manufactured products in world export by technology. So the name of the game is medium and high technology. Natural resources, which is the green line, and the low technologies, which is the red line, are at the bottom. It's medium and high technology goods. In fact, high technology has now overtaken the medium technology. And so the name of the game now is the ability to manufacture and export high technology goods. That's where Pakistan has been lacking. Only about less than 1% of our products fall in the medium or high technology areas. About 50% of the exports, 60% of our exports are low value added textiles. So when I was appointed as chairman HEC back in 2002, and before that I was the Minister for Science for about 2.5 years, I persuaded President Musharraf at the time to invest massively in education and science. We had a 6,000% increase in the development budget of science and technology, and another 3,500% increase in the budget for higher education when I took over as HEC. I was also responsible as the Minister for IT and Telecom, and the Higher Education Commission was set up as an autonomous body. And the key challenges that we tried to address, firstly, was the quality of education, access, and relevance. I was responsible for only higher education, but we need to focus on education across the board because it all starts at school level education. So primary, secondary, technical, and higher all have to be taken together. Otherwise, we just can't progress. So we took a number of measures at that time under the HEC. We sent thousands of students abroad. Some 11,000 students were sent to top universities across the world. The largest Fulbright program of the world was initiated with half the funding coming from us. But sending them abroad is not enough. We have to attract them back. And who doesn't want to come back? Their parents are here, their brothers and sisters are here, but we need to have an ecosystem. So we had a new salary structure called the tenure track system, under which salary of a professor became 4 times, 400% higher than the salary of a federal minister. But this was a contractual system of appointment where people were appointed on contract for 3 years, internationally evaluated. If the evaluation was positive, evaluated again. The contract extended again for a further 3 years, and then again a second evaluation before tenure was granted. So a good salary structure, but with built-in international evaluation. Every student going abroad could apply for a $100,000 research grant 1 year before they were returning. So even if they came back to a poor, weak university, they would still have substantial research funding. Our digital library was created to provide free access to 65,000 textbooks and 25,000 journals, free access to sophisticated instrumentation, so they didn't have to have instruments with sophisticated equipment within their own labs. They could send their samples to any lab in the country for fee and free analysis, and the charges would be paid by HEC, and jobs on arrival. These and a number of other measures led to some remarkable changes. And this is just a comparison with India, research publications in international journals with impact factors, Pakistan versus India. Pakistan is green and India is blue. A number of publications per capita, per 10 million individuals. So if you look at the extreme left, the year 2000, we had only 44 publications per 10 million population versus 172 of India per 10 million population. And then with the inputs that we brought in and the changes that we made and the support that we gave to research in universities, this started changing. And as you move down in 2017, we overtook India, and now we are about 30% ahead of India on a per capita basis. Actually, in actual numbers, that of course, India has a larger number of publications, but we are now publishing about over 20,000 publications now in international journals per year, whereas we were only publishing about 700 2 decades ago. So something remarkable has happened. And this was reproduced from Nature, published in 28th December 2018, where Pakistan was ranked as the #1 country in the world in terms of increase in the number of publications with reference to the previous year. So, and there were comments published internationally. The chairman of the United Nations Commission on Science and Technology and Development wrote in an article that in no other country has the higher education sector seen such spectacular positive developments as seen in Pakistan during the last 6 years. He published this in 2008, and he was referring to the period that I was chairman HEC. And in 2016, Thomson Reuters, a top international organization, wrote that Pakistan has emerged as the country with the highest percentage of highly cited papers compared with the BRIC countries. So the number of quality papers as compared to Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the proportion of them was much higher. So these were international tributes. India became quite concerned at what was going on, and there was a detailed presentation made to the Indian Prime Minister on 22nd July 2006, which was reported in Hindustan Times on 23rd July 2006. This presentation was made by Professor C.N.R. Rao, who is the advisor to the Indian Prime Minister. And India was greatly concerned at what was going on in Pakistan and that we would be a threat to India in science. And so India then decided to then dissolve its University Grants Commission and has now formed, it tried to do so earlier, but did not succeed, but has now formed the HEC, Higher Education Commission of India, patterned on Pakistan's basis. I was also responsible for IT at the time, and so we brought in the IT policy, gave a tax holiday to the IT industry, e-governance programs were initiated, and a large number of institutions introduced in universities for teaching IT. And we set up the Pakistan Educational Research Network to connect universities with high-speed internet access, placed Pakistan's first satellite in space, ParkSat-1, and started a major video conferencing program. And in the mobile telephony, people used to have to pay for receiving calls back in 2002, 2001. And most people were reluctant कि call कोई कर रहा है, पैसे हमारी जेब से जा रहे हैं, why should we hold such a mobile phone? So I changed that, and I brought in the regime that it is a calling party which will pay and not the call receiving party. And that, along with other measures, creating U-phone, for instance, at lower rates, bringing in international competition, led to a huge explosive growth. And from 200,000 phones, we expanded to 3 million phones in a few months, and now reached 260 million phones. Park Satellite, we had only one slot in space. We had originally 5, but we had lost 4 of them because of government lethargy. And so we succeeded in bringing Pakistan's first satellite and secured that slot. And now, of course, there are that slot, we are bringing in other satellites from time to time. To promote distance education, we brought in the virtual university, which was established in Lahore. And this is a good university. And we are now expanding the programs of this university. Last year, we've given them a grant of about 6 billion rupees to expand distance education to other universities also, so that it should not be confined just to the virtual university. So IT at the spread of internet was very small. Only 29 cities had internet at that time. And internet, these are the knowledge highways, commercial highways, much more important than the road highways. So we rapidly expanded internet from those 29 cities to about 2,000 towns, cities, and villages within a matter of 2 years. Optical fiber was expanded also at that time very rapidly, and internet usage grew at a phenomenal pace. Prices of bandwidth were ridiculously high, some $87,000 per month for an even line. They were brought down substantially and are now less than $100 per month. And the Pakistan Educational Research Network, which was set up, which I mentioned, connected all the universities with high-speed internet access. And we developed a one-window search engine in collaboration with the University of Lund in Sweden, and started this nationwide distance education program. So every day there have been lectures which have been listened to live and interactively. There are focal points in every public sector university. And this was going on till 2018, till this program was suspended by HEC. But we had about 5,000 lectures delivered live and interactively, and they are available on the internet for people to view. This is President Musharraf visiting us while one of the lectures was going on. The national hub of this lecturing program is the Latif Ibrahim Jamal National Science Center, which is located within my institution in Karachi University. This is a picture of that hub. Well, let me go on to talk to you that now we have now become much more aware of these various MOOCs that are available, massive open online courses. You have Coursera, which was started in 2012. Udacity again started in 2012, and edX. And over the last 9 years, they have grown considerably, and the students have also grown. FutureLearn is largely a British consortium combined with Australian universities, and that too has come in, and there are a number of other MOOCs as well. So, and these offers informal education as well as certified learning, and as well as you can also get formal higher education qualifications through these books. And there have been there were a number of reports about how they were transforming the sector. Now with the advent of COVID, these have become much more commonly used than they were about 5 years ago. And there were articles published in the Wall Street Journal, the Economist, and the Times about how now top universities are now using this for spreading their education. MIT OpenCourseWare has been available now for over 2 decades. We got permission from them to download all their courses, and we distributed them on some 10,000 CDs to all the universities in computer science departments and other departments. And Khan Academy similarly has more than 10,000 courses now at school, college, and university level. And we have now very recently started a program to translate 3,000 of these courses into Urdu so that they could be made available to our schools and colleges immediately. Excitingly, we created an integrated version of massive open online courses. We were probably the first in the world to do this with permission from MIT and from Stanford, Harvard, and other University of California and other universities. We downloaded all their courses onto one platform, and we then built in a search engine through which we rearrange them according to school, college, and university level, rearrange them according to disciplines and sub-disciplines, and launch these were launched by the President of Pakistan about 6 years ago. They are free, no registration, no payment, and you can just go, and virtual university courses are also included. So the website address, if you want to note it down, is LEJ, standing for Latif Ibrahim Jamal, which is the Hub Science Center, LEJ, then the number 4, LEJ4, learning, learning.com.pk, LEJ4learning.com.pk. If you go there, you'll find these courses free of charge, and you can use them from school level across up to university level, and they are of great, and they are being extensively used across the country and abroad. So this is what we have done. Let me now turn to the future. The present Prime Minister formed 3 task forces: the Science and Technology Task Force, of which I am chair. This is the Prime Minister's task force. And then there is the Information Technology and Telecommunication Task Force of the Prime Minister. I am the co-chair of that, along with the Minister of IT and Telecom. And then there is, much more importantly, a Knowledge Economy Task Force, which has the Prime Minister as the chairman, and I am the vice chairman. And it has half a dozen federal ministers as members, including the Minister for Finance, Planning, Education, Science and Technology, IT, Telecom, etc., etc. So, and it has a substantial amount of funding available. So we have been funding critically important projects in the various areas of education, science, and technology linked to the knowledge economy. And they're not just for higher education. So we have some programs at school level education. For instance, some 400 schools, Matric Tech program is going on as a pilot, so that the last 3 years of education include technical education. We have programs in IT and telecom going on across the country. Blended learning programs are underway. And the knowledge economy is now we have created new directions for Pakistan, that we need to come out of this trap of the low value added natural resource based economy and move to a knowledge economy. And that can only be done through, as I said right in the beginning, through investments in education across the board, not just higher education. And I'm now trying to convince the present government to announce a national education emergency, so that we can focus on major problems that we have at the lower level education, including some 20 million out of school children, and then investments in science, technology, innovation, and also creating an ecosystem where innovation and entrepreneurship can flourish. So we are, so this is funding various sectors. For instance, the budget of the Ministry of Science and Technology has gone up by 400% as a result of some of the projects that the Knowledge Economy Task Force has funded through the Ministry of Science and Technology. We have funded similarly projects in the Ministry of Education, in the Ministry of Agriculture, in the Ministry of Industries, and in other ministries. So it is across the board, and also particularly the IT ministry. So the key areas that we are focusing on are firstly policies, so that we change the policies to encourage high-tech manufacture in this country, manufacture and export of high technology goods, initiatives in education, science and innovation, technical and vocational education, high value added agriculture. As I said right in the beginning, advanced agriculture. There are many exciting opportunities now through advent of genomics for agriculture. And particularly in some of the emerging technologies, artificial intelligence alone will have an impact of about $16 trillion, $15.6 trillion over the next 5 years. If Pakistan can capture even 1% of that market, that's $160 billion of benefit that you can draw just from AI alone. Similarly, there are areas of industrial biotechnology, of nanotechnology, for instance, nanopharmaceuticals or nanomaterials, and a whole range, energy storage systems, the cars that you see, the combustion engine, that's now out of the way. Within 10 years, you will find self-driven electrical cars all over. So they are going, all the current cars are, all the current manufacturers are changing their strategies for future automobile development. So the fourth industrial revolution is bringing in a huge wave of change. And we must know what's going on. We must look at the future. We must be able to prepare our youth, not for just today, but for the future. That's critically important. And so we have to train them in our institutions. So we have now a major program going on for blended learning, and in universities, which we are planning now to expand to colleges and schools in a major way to improve the quality of education, because universities are not about beautiful buildings, they're about beautiful minds. So the high quality faculty is the single most important aspect that we have to focus on. And with the advent of internet, we have now access to the best lectures available from Cambridge or Oxford or MIT or Harvard. How far have we fallen behind? Just take one university. I have been associated with the University of Cambridge. I got my PhD back some 52 years ago. I'm quite ancient, but alhamdulillah, I'm still very active. So I got my PhD in organic chemistry in 1968. And I then spent, altogether, I spent about 9 years at Cambridge, and I know Cambridge well. 130 Nobel Prize winners from Cambridge University. About 35 Nobel Prize winners from just one college of that university, Trinity College. That's one university in the West. The Islamic world, 1.5 billion people, not a single Nobel Prize in science given so far, not one, for work done within the Islamic world. Yes, Professor Abdul Salam got it, but that was for his work done in the UK. And Zuhail Ahmad also got it for work done in California. But we still live in darkness and superstition, and we must come out of that. So I'm now building a number of foreign universities in Pakistan. If you look at O-level and A-level students, they are amongst they are the toppers in the world. If you compare our O-level and A-level with those in Australia or UK or Canada or India or elsewhere, we are amongst the top performing students. But then it all falls back because our college education and our school education and our general higher education is quite poor in terms of standards. So if it can work at O-level and A-level, why can't it work at higher education level? Of course it can. If we have high quality institutions with quality assurance systems built in from abroad. So I am building these foreign universities. This one, Pakistan Austrian Fachhochschule, is near Islamabad, about 45 minutes drive from Islamabad in Haripur, well worth visiting. There are 8 foreign universities participating as collaborations who will be offering their degrees. So this is, there are several universities from Austria, 3 universities from Austria, and there are 5 universities of China who will be offering their courses to this university. I'm building in a similar university in Sialkot, which was approved just 2 weeks ago. Sialkot is the hub of an industrial triangle, Sialkot, Gujranwala, Gujarat. So this is the first university, Haripur, was funded by the KP government, thanks to Prime Minister Imran Khan at that time, who supported this initiative. And this again is being funded by the Punjab government. So these are provincial universities, and I'm now also helping to build a university in the Prime Minister's, the land behind my Prime Minister's house in Islamabad, which should be approved this afternoon. Today is a meeting at ECNEC. So this, I think, is an important slide, disruptive innovations transforming economies. So there'll be $100 trillion impact, global impact, and of which about $33 trillion impact will be for some of about a dozen disruptive innovations. And they range from IoT, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, to the next generation genomics that I referred to, the genetic editing techniques through which you can create new plant or animal species in the laboratory. So you can take, for instance, the genes from roses, those genes responsible for the fragrance, and put them into the genetic structure of rice, and have then rice which has the fragrance of roses, and all sorts of things you can do like that. One of the areas that we are working upon is, one of the big problems in the planet today is water. We have plenty of water, but it is seawater. But if you go down to Karachi beach, you find many plants growing there happily in seawater, because nature has endowed them with genes which give them salt resistance. Can we identify those genes? Can we incorporate those genes into wheat or rice or vegetables or fruits and grow food, have agricultural products being grown in seawater? The answer is yes, this is possible. And this is one of the projects that I'm working on in my center. By the way, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself in the beginning. I'm a professor of organic chemistry, and I am involved, and I've been all my life involved in the International Center for Chemical and Biological Sciences at Karachi University, with 600 students doing PhD in organic chemistry, biochemistry, pharmacology, molecular medicine, genomics, bioinformatics, and other such areas. We have a very nice neuroscience laboratory. One of my exciting projects that we have is, and this is something that I've been working on, is the molecular basis of thought, of memory. Thoughts are not abstract, as you may imagine. Thoughts are made of atoms and molecules. Which atoms, which molecules, what are thoughts made of? That's a holy grail of science, a very exciting area. And that's something that we have now about 20 US patents in this field. We have many international publications unraveling the molecular basis of thought. And so we propose that there are certain, whenever you look at something, for instance, there's a glass in front of me. When I look at this glass, immediately a molecular pattern is imprinted in my brain. And logic then is the relationship of these various patterns, billions and billions of patterns that you create during the process of learning. So I could give a whole lecture in this. This is a fascinating area, but I have another 2 minutes left, so I should not get carried away here. But this is one of the areas. But that has led us into discovering something against epilepsy. And we are now working on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We have a very nice laboratory also within our institute for COVID analysis. So this center is named, this is called the Atta-ur-Rahman Center for Genomics Research, as a part of the International Center for Chemical and Biological Sciences. It's named after my father because this was built out of my savings. And every day, every week, we are carrying out a genetic analysis of the coronavirus, seeing where the mutations are occurring. Are they dangerous mutations or not so dangerous mutations? And then so that we can warn the government well in advance if something serious is occurring, which of course it is occurring all the time. So we are analyzing and we are identifying the areas of these mutations, and we also are trying to develop medicines for treatment of coronavirus, not just vaccines, but actual treatment for patients who are suffering from coronavirus. So I would like to stop here, just say in the end that the future of this country lies in our youth. We are very lucky to have 67% of our population is below the age of 30. This is a huge pool of creativity. The challenge that we have is to invest in them through education and science and innovation, etc. And so that's what we must be doing in the future. So I'll stop here and say thank you, and I'll try to answer any questions that may occur. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Atta-ur-Rahman. It's been enlightening, to say the least. Wonderful session, and there's so much that everyone in the audience learned, but there are also a couple of questions, sir.
Yeah, sure.
So, sir, how do we prepare our children for the upcoming global economic challenges?
Well, I think the window that has opened up firstly through the access of MOOCs, massive open online courses. You see, the critically important thing is education. Firstly, it is the responsibility of the parents to encourage their children to ask questions. We should not shut them up. We should just, if they have a query, why is the rainbow so colored, or why is does this rose look pink? There's a beautiful science behind it. So if they don't know something, so firstly, it is the responsibility of the parents to encourage curiosity within the children. But then secondly, we have to, at the school, college, and university level, we have to develop a hybrid system of education. And so that's why I'm now working on a project to provide, say, the Khan Academy courses as well as other courses translated into local languages and into Urdu, available across the country free of charge. And there is a huge program underway. So, and this should be done at college and university level. So to prepare for the economic challenges, we must be aware of what those challenges are, the disruptive innovations that I mentioned that are taking place in almost every sphere, and then train our students in those futuristic areas, which I'm doing in the new universities that I'm in the process of establishing today.
Right. So absolutely, all the best for it, and we can't wait to have this project executed. So another question that we have is, who are the major players for the knowledge economy?
Well, I think typically it's the triple helix, which is called, which is basically, on the one hand, it is the government, which has to prepare the necessary policies and create the ecosystem so that the knowledge economy can flourish. The second partner are the universities and the educational institutions, which have to upgrade themselves to meet the challenges of the new. And this starts, as I said, from the school level upwards, to meet the challenges of the knowledge economy, open the minds of our children to new innovation and to research, and to create the excitement about discovery, which they should be fascinated. They should not be learning for the sake of exams. They should be learning because they are thirsty for knowledge and they want to learn more. Isn't it fascinating that I can make you disappear by covering you with a cloak, a shawl made out of metamaterials, or that the blind can see with their tongue, or you can create new species, etc., etc. So as I said, truth is stranger than fiction. It's all about research. So that is the second partner, education. And the third partner, very important, is the private sector. We have to create the necessary, create awareness in the private sector of the business opportunities, and create the necessary incentives for the private sector in investing in these futuristic areas in terms of industrial development, etc. So it has to be driven by a holistic policy in which all these three players are blending together to attain certain set objectives.
Wonderful. So what is holding back the Pakistani economy to incorporate ICT in their current technological infrastructure?
Would you repeat the beginning of that question, please?
Right. So what is it that's holding back the Pakistani economy to incorporate information communication technology in their current technological infrastructure?
Well, firstly, I think the incompetence of the government. I tend to be blunt. Sorry, people get annoyed because I tend to be very frank. If you go into the various ministries across provincial ministries or the federal ministries, the people there, they're still, using these files, and these files are circulating through 60
brick and mortar systems, absolutely.
Yeah, they are just not aware of what has happened, and this needs to be enforced. This is what I did when I became the chairman HEC. As soon as I took over as chairman, I gave them 30 days. I said, you're going to have an exam on basic IT skills. If you fail, you're going to be out of HEC. And everybody was scared about this mad person who's come in and wants to examine us. We have been in this institution for 20 years. So firstly, it is competence within the ministries. That is the first thing that is holding them back. The second is that the e-governance programs are they need integration between ministries and the private sector, and between ministries and others. So we need to introduce e-governance programs, because that also then brings in transparency. And the third is corruption. There's a lot of corruption built in. Once you bring in transparency, all that corruption gets blocked. So there are many people who would like that either their incompetence or their corruption remains concealed. And they don't want IT to come in and integrate itself into the government infrastructure. So these are some of the key parameters that we have to battle onwards with.
Professor Dr. Atta-ur-Rahman, thank you very much for those enlightening comments and for contributing to our knowledge economy. That is all the questions we have right now, because unfortunately it's Friday and we have to take a short prayer break. But thank you for all your time. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching us. We will be continuing with this stream. Till then, we'll just hear the ending notes from Professor Atta-ur-Rahman before we go on our namaz break.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope that I've offered a bit of excitement to you, a little bit of sparkle of what the future holds. You have my
yes, sir, your LinkedIn profile and email address has been shared.
You have my email address. So those of you who want access to my book called The Wondrous World of Science, just send me an email and I'll be happy to send you a soft copy of it. And that discusses all the fantastic developments in agriculture and IT and biotech. So I'll be happy to send that book to you, and I hope that will excite you and your colleagues to take up education and science and research. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And if I may confess, I was one of those people. I grew up reading your column on the wondrous world of science. So you yourself are an institution, and thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz.
Ladies and gentlemen, that would be all for now. We will commence again at 1:45 p.m. sharp with another international speaker. Please stay tuned and keep us updated.